This is Chrissy with the Galaxy Gardens, and check this out. It is the first day gone home and it's still somewhat bright out. First day, that means spring's on the way. Come here. Alright, so today we're going to be making some mushroom bags. There are so many different ways you can grow mushrooms at home. We're going to be growing Italian mushrooms, otherwise known as Phoenix mushrooms. They're great. They're in the oyster family. And first thing that we need is some pellets. So I'm going to grab about 6 cups of these, and then I'm going to meet you in our kitchen. Here we are. We have these hardwood pellets from our pellet stove, and these are going to be our mushroom substrate. For the variety we use, about 6 cups of it equals 1 pound. And we're going to add gypsum to this for extra nutrition for the mycelium. You want to aim for about 2 to 5% of your dry substrate weight for gypsum. So for this amount, we're going to aim for 5%, just because I know these in the past haven't had the most nutrients in them. And that's going to be about 8 ounces of gypsum. So I'm going to go grab that. We have that from all of our brewing supplies in our garage. And I'm going to add that in here. This is the gypsum that we're using. Again, we're not a sponsored channel. If you work for this company, you want to sponsor us, awesome, we'd love that. But you can see the uses of gypsum in brewing to lower your mash pH. In mushroom growing, it adds extra nutrients. I like to add it before I do anything with these. We're going to be hydrating them and then sterilizing them. People like to add stuff at different times. This is just what I do, and it's worked out pretty good. Okay, a little bit over, that's okay. We're aiming for about 0.8 ounces to add to this. I'm just gonna put this right in here. And then we're gonna add our water. So we started with 6 cups of our dry hardwood pellet substrate. And I usually add, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 cups, see where we are. And then you can add liquid till you get to the right moisture content. This is gonna puff up a lot, so I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, we're gonna add boiling water to this. In the meanwhile, I'm gonna get my oven on. I'm actually gonna turn that down to 250. I do have a pressure canner, so we could pressure can sterilize our substrate, but I don't have the appropriate type of heat safe bags for that, so we're gonna use our oven. All right, so we started with 3 cups of water. You can see our pellets are already puffing up and starting to break down. I always forget how much I add every year. There's usually a couple videos I like to go by. Looks like we're gonna add some more. Some people say use boiling water for this, but since we're gonna be putting it in the oven, you can just use regular water if you're gonna be sterilizing it anyway. So I'm gonna add some more. I'll let you know how much we end up with. Okay, so our oven just came to temperature, which is perfect timing because we finished hydrating our pellets. We ended up with about 6 cups of water to our 6 cups of dry pellets. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it on these pans. We're gonna sterilize them first with some isopropyl alcohol, put our substrate on it, and then put foil over it, and we're gonna bake them for about 20 to 30 minutes and then let them cool. So we have some time to wait, and in the meanwhile, I'll show you what other stuff you're gonna need for this process. Again, this is just what I use. If you're ever gonna do this at home, don't just watch my video. I'm glad you're watching it, but be a sponge of information and do research, not just information gathering. So we have our isopropyl alcohol to sterilize items. We're going to be using gallon freezer bags. And with these freezer bags, what I'm going to do once the substrate is cooled down is sterilize the outside of them, cut a hole, and over that hole we're going to put some gauze, which is already sterile, and tape it into place. And that's worked for me now going on 3 years. So let's get all of this into the oven with some foil, and I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. Right, while we're waiting for that to go, I want to show you the spawn that we're using. We get it from a company called North Spore. They're one of the closest companies like this to us. Again, we're not sponsored, but North Spore, if you see this, you want to sponsor us. Love to talk, love your products. Anyways, so we were gifted this for Christmas, and now it is January 29th, almost a month later. This thing looks great, very well inoculated. See that little fuzzy spot there? It has a little air pocket here, and it's the beginning of fruiting bodies. So this thing is ready to go, ready to get broken up. When the time comes, all I'm gonna do is open this up, give it a punch to break it up, and then our cooled substrate, oh my goodness, there's even a little mushroom boy trying to come in right there. Anyways, and then we're gonna add a little bit to each bag of substrate. Now in the past, I filled up my gallon bags about this much with substrate before, and then added in maybe like a quarter of the amount of spawn. We're gonna be doing smaller bags this time around, just because I found, you really don't need that much substrate, especially for oysters. Oysters are very fast colonizers. So this has been doing fine in the fridge. It's time to get it going. This is only gonna take another 26 minutes until I take it out, but it can take, 1 to 2 hours to cool down. So we'll be back. As you enter the world of growing mushrooms, you're gonna find that a lot of people have very rigid and very strong beliefs about how you're supposed to grow your mushrooms. I just want to show you the way that we do it and has worked for us as people who are not mushroom growing experts. We homestead. Part of that is exploring other avenues of getting protein and vitamins into your diet. I love mushrooms. Greg honestly doesn't really eat them that much. This works for us. I love the Phoenix mushrooms. This is going to be my 3rd year now growing them because they're so tasty and they're huge when they come in. I've gotten one that's like as big as my face. It's great. So this is what we do. And I don't remember, people refer to it as like different types of tech. So you have like tub tech, bag tech, whatever. Not a mushroom growing expert, but I can get it good enough that we can grow it in our kitchen. I don't have the time or motivation to prioritize like building a DIY still air box or like flow hood for everything. So this works for me. If you want to do that, there's so many good videos out there on YouTube. They'll show you how to do it, as well as, like growing in jars, doing like mass grows. But we'll stick with our mushroom logs in these bags for now. If our situation changes in the future, we'll definitely be expanding. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours and our pans have cooled down. You don't want to rush this process, but you want to move on to the next step. So I'm going to use some of this isopropyl. Put that on there. You can also use like Everclear, anhydrous alcohol. All right, so this is all set. I go ahead and get a spoon. All right. I'm sure people watching this love my sanitation procedures. Now, when these come out of the factory, I know They are sterile, so I know the inside of this is at least sterile. The outside, we're not gonna worry about for a minute. And we're gonna just start filling this up. Pretty simple. I like to get a bunch of my bags ready first and then add my substrate, excuse me, my grain spawn in after. So let me get some bags ready to go. We'll be right back. Okay, so we filled 3 of these bags a little bit under halfway with our hardwood substrate with the added gypsum. Now we can take our block here and just kind of break it up. See that? Ooh, that usually doesn't happen. Usually you can break it up inside here without any contamination. The fact that this one broke a little bit. Up here, let's get that into focus. Right up here is a little concerning. I've never had that happen. So I'm just gonna break this up. I'll show you what it looks like. So when you have it broken up like this, you're not hurting the mycelium. You're just kind of breaking up all of its webs there. So now it's broken up, I'm gonna go grab my spoon, sterilize it again, and I'm gonna add it to these bags. Go ahead and cut it open. You see in here, all broken up. And it's gonna get broken up some more too. Let's open this up. So you'll notice we haven't put our extra holes in these bags. We'll get to that. A safe bet when you're adding mycelium in is you really don't need that much, but if you add more spawn or grain spawn to the bag, it will colonize faster. So for this, we'll end up with about a 2/3 portion of substrate, 1/3 portion of mycelium and spawn, excuse me. And with this, you know, this bag can actually inoculate quite a few. You don't need that much, it just takes a bit longer. So some of these haven't broken up all the way. I'm just gonna go ahead and give those a little squeeze. And then I'll shake this all up. It's all distributed. Make sure you get any of those clumps in here. All right. There you have it. This one is fully inoculated, so let's put it to the side. We'll do the other ones, and then I'll show you how we do our air holes on here. We have our 3 bags fully inoculated, and we've barely made a dent in our grain spawn that we have. So the reason for that is I need to do a couple more batches of getting substrate ready because I can only fit 2 pans in my oven at a time. So I'll be doing another round of this tonight, and anything that's left over, we're gonna go throw it out into our raised beds outside to inoculate them. I have one raised bed in mind that already has a bunch of straw in there, and it'll go ahead and inoculate the straw, and maybe we'll get some oyster mushrooms. I did that last year and we got a couple. It was pretty good. So let me show you now how we do our air vents, because you do need airflow to get mushrooms. The longer you have the contents of this bag exposed to the air in your home, the longer it's exposed to any kind of like floating yeast, bacteria, or anything else that can get in there. So, and there's always the chance of that, you know, not doing this type of thing without, you know, a syringe or in front of a flow hood, or excuse me, a laminar hood, or in a still air box. But for me, using this type of Phoenix oyster mushroom, they're such an aggressive colonizer, I'm not too worried about it. So while we get everything else going, this is just gonna get popped back in the fridge and we'll pull it out when I do my other bags. So we are going to be putting an air hole in here using a sterile gauze pad. And I have this full of Everclear actually to sterilize things. Some people recommend following this up by also using a flame on it to sterilize it. We don't need to do that, and my hands are sterilized. So we're actually gonna get a clean paper towel. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead, get some of that Everclear. Just gonna wipe off the outside here. Okay. Take your scissors. I like to do it like this. You just kind of fold it. Your hole doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. So you can see we have a hole now, right? So you're gonna take your gas pad and your tape, my tape. It's probably better to do this in advance, but it's going on the outside, so I'm not too worried about it. Let's get just a couple pieces for right now. Now, I'm gonna take this, okay? Don't even need to unfold it. If you think it's not a big enough piece, you can try to unfold it. My hands are clean, by the way. Now, people do recommend to get a certain grade micron filter for this. If you're gonna buy mushroom bags to do your at-home grows online, they'll already come with a micron filter there that will allow air to go through, but will significantly reduce the contaminants. And a couple of years ago, I did like a lot of research on this, and I found that gauze, you know, does filter some stuff. I haven't had any issues so far. Don't know about this year. So we're gonna let a little air in here. Close that up. And now all the air coming in, any kind of gases that form in here, going out will be through this port. And outside of labeling this with today's date, we're good to go. So I'm gonna repeat it with the other ones and we'll be done. All right, so there you have it. We have our 3 mushroom bags. They're going to inoculate this hardwood substrate in about 2 to 4 weeks. And once they look like the grain spawn bag, where it's fully white everywhere, at that point they'll be ready to start fruiting. Typically at this point I don't really run into any kind of contaminant issues, but I will run into contaminant issues down the line once we start fruiting, just because it's exposed to the air. Ideally, you would have a fruiting chamber for these, but you do what you can. So we'll revisit these in about a month before we switch into fruiting. Thanks for joining me today. I hope this was helpful for you if you're new to growing mushrooms and you want a pretty cheap and quick way of getting some started in your kitchen. Like I said, there are so many different ways to grow mushrooms, and of course you want to have a sanitary and sterile environment when you're dealing with starting some in your house, because you don't want any unwelcome spores in your mix, because you want to get what you're expecting to get and not some other mushroom that might make you sick. So that's why sterilization is important. In this case, with these oysters, just in my experience, we haven't really had any issues using this technique. So check us out. We're gonna be having lots of things coming. Next time we'll talk about what fruit tree companies we like to use. But otherwise, if you wanna check us out on other social media platforms, go ahead and look at the link tree in the description. See you next time. Bye.